Hey guys, I was out here in the garden yesterday getting things ready to plant for summer, and I started thinking about all the different hacks that I have learned and used over the years to make gardening in raised beds so much easier. So in this video, I'm going to break down 7 raised bed hacks that you'll wish you knew sooner because I wish I knew them sooner. So the first one is you don't even need a typical raised bed like this one, or this one, or this one, or even this one. It could be more like this one. Okay, not exactly like that one, but you don't need a raised bed border at all. In fact, you can just take compost like that and pile it up about 6 inches deep in whatever shape you want. And that will give you most of the benefits of a raised bed. You'll get better drainage, you'll get weed suppression, you can plant more intensively, it'll even warm up quicker in the springtime. The only thing that type of raised bed won't give you is the height that might be needed if you have a bad back or some kind of disability that keeps you from bending over. For that height, you will need some kind of border. The second hack is pretty well known, that's why I'm going to get it out of the way right away, and that is Hugelkultur. Most of the cost of the raised bed isn't the border that you put around it. It's the soil that you fill it with. You definitely don't want to use garden soil, it's too heavy. And so when you're buying good planting mix to fill a raised bed with, it can add up really quickly. That's where this trick comes in, Hugelkultur. It's the practice of burying logs, sticks, and organic matter underneath your planting mix. So instead of spending a bunch of money on soil to fill a 3-foot deep bed, I fill the bottom of my deeper beds with logs and branches. Then you can layer leaves or straw or compost over that, and then a nice thick layer of planting mix on the top. As time goes by, the logs and the bigger pieces in there will break down. Now, a couple of really important tips for this method. Number one, when you're putting in the logs and the sticks, you want to make sure that you really order them in there nicely, kind of like you're putting together a jigsaw puzzle. You want as few spaces between them as possible because that will cause your soil to settle over the years. Also, you want to make sure that the top 12 inches of that bed are compost and planting mix and none of the bigger materials, because the top 12 inches is where most of the roots grow. And so you don't want them to be competing for nitrogen with those big branches. The big branches take nitrogen from the soil to break down. But as long as you have 12 inches of good stuff over that, you're totally fine. So once you've got all those packed in there and start putting that layer of compost and or planting mix, put about 6 inches of that, water it in really well. You can even get up in the bed and kind of tamp it down a little bit. Trying to compress it because it will compress on its own. So you don't want to have that settling while you're growing in it. So get up there and tamp it down, water it in, leave it for a couple of days. Then you can come back and fill the next 6 inches or however many inches you have left to the top. Water it in, tamp it down, get it to the level you want. Now, just like with any raised bed, it will slowly compress or lower or lose some soil over the years. So it's great every spring or so to just top it up with a couple inches of good planting mix. Hack number 3 is about protecting your plants from any ground dwelling pests that you've got. Gophers, groundhogs, moles being the top 3 I can think of. We deal with gophers here a lot. I had never had gophers before we moved to this property, and I learned that just what you see in the cartoons, I saw here. I planted some carrots and literally they got pulled right underneath the ground. I couldn't believe it. So from then on out, when I built this garden here and I had all these raised beds put in, I added gopher wire to the bottom. It's really just 1/2 inch hardware cloth, galvanized, and I used staples, the hammer-in kind, not the staple gun kind. They need to be heavy duty so they don't rust, but I basically just turned the bed over, put that wire on, stapled it all around the edge, flipped it back over, and filled it up. And I will tell you, every single year we get gophers here in the paths, and they will make holes all around the beds trying to get in. But this is the 4th year here, and I have never had a gopher get into these beds. So it works like a charm. It's gonna save you a lot of headaches. Now, if you don't have a wooden raised bed, if you have a metal raised bed or something else, you might not be able to staple it on the bottom, but just make sure that you sit the bed on top of the wire where there's about at least an inch overlap all the way hanging out the sides. All right, next up is kind of a hotly debated topic, and that is whether or not you should put plastic sheeting in your raised beds. And my answer is sometimes yes. If you have old wood that you don't know if it's been treated, pressure treated, especially before 2003, so if it's pretty old wood, you want to protect the soil in your beds from the leaching of the chemical into the soil. And you'd want to use a safe plastic for raised beds, which is a number 2 or number 5. Look for the number on them. And that'd be polypropylene or HDPE. Those are considered safe for gardening and won't leach chemicals into the soil. Plastic sheeting can also just help protect the wood from rotting. It'll give you several more years that way. Or you might even want to put plastic sheeting all the way in your bed to line the entire thing if you've got contaminated soil and you don't want the contaminants leaching from the soil up into your raised bed soil. Just make sure that that plastic has drain holes. Punch a bunch of drain holes, about a 1/2 inch thickness or width, all over the bottom of that. And so in a 4x8 raised bed, you could have probably 1 drainage hole every square foot, just to make sure that bed drains. If you've ever done square foot gardening, you know how helpful it can be to divide the bed into a nice grid. But they charge a lot for those fancy frames. Instead, you can either use chopsticks, regular sticks, or little nails to make that grid with string. You can place a stick every square foot in your bed and then make the grid by dragging the string between and wrapping around each one once. You can also put nails in the sides of your raised bed, small nails, every foot, and then weave the strings back and forth through all the nails. What you're gonna end up with is a nice planting grid, and it's going to make your bed look tidy, and it's gonna be really easy to make the measurements for those plants. This is a great way to get kids involved in gardening, square foot gardening, because they can make out their little grid. You can tell them how many of each type of plant can go in that grid, and they can plant away to their heart's content. While we're on the subject of measurements and plant spacing, you may not be doing square foot gardening, but you might not always want to have to bring out the ruler to know how far to space your plants or your seeds. So another great hack is just on the side of the bed with a permanent marker like a Sharpie pen, take a ruler and measure out 3 or 6 inch increments. Make a little dot or a line. You can even take a pencil and write on the edge of your wooden raised bed what you planted, what you're planting there, maybe even the date, so that the next season you're going to remember what was there, and you can just put something else there this time to do a little crop rotation the easy way. All right, number 7 is a game changer if you want to protect your plants from frost, from pests, from the sun. You can build a low tunnel over your bed with 1/2 inch PVC pipe and with 3/4 inch pipe straps. I attach 1/2 inch PVC to the inside of the bed using these brackets. So for these 10-foot beds, I have 5 PVC pipe arches. Just screw the brackets in at those increments, slide the PVC pipe in, bend it over. These are 10-foot lengths of PVC. That's gonna make the frame for your low tunnel. Now, depending on what time of year it is and what you're trying to protect your bed from, you can use plastic or fleece in the winter to get an early start and keep those frosts off. You can use netting in the summertime to protect your tomatoes from birds, from squirrels. Or what I'm going to be using this for is shade cloth, because this is going over my pepper bed, and inevitably every single summer my peppers get sun scald from the hot sun. So I'm going to put shade cloth over the afternoon half of the bed to protect them from that. Now, whatever type of material you're using, you can actually get PVC clamps. It's really easy to secure whatever material it is to the PVC and to pull it tight. Now, on hot days, if you're using plastic, you'll want to remove the plastic, open up the two ends so you can get some airflow through there and some cooler temperatures. Just remember to close them up at night. All right, that's 7 raised bed hacks I wish I knew sooner, but now you know them. And if you want a more permanent solution to the low tunnel we just showed you, click this video right here. I'm going to show you just how to do that. I'll see you next time.